Good evening and welcome to Your Right to Know by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. My name is Mary Lotze and I will be your host for this evening's show. And joining me tonight is a very special guest, my usual co-host, Andrew Couture. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hi, Mary. How are you doing this evening?
Doing super. I'm introducing Andrew tonight, obviously not as my co-host, but as a very important guest, and that's as attorney Andrew Couture, who is running for Governor's Council for the 7th District. So, Andrew, we have to hear all about that. In the past, we have interviewed previous governor's councils. Jen
Yes, we
Casey
have.
was governor's counselor for the 7th District for numerous years, and we learned a lot about the position, but I know our viewers don't know a lot about the position. So for any new viewers or people who don't know about it, I'd first like you to introduce yourself to our viewers, and then let's talk about the Governor's Council. Tell people a little bit about what it does, why it's important.
Well, as you stated, my name is Andrew Couture. I am a practicing attorney. I have my own office in Leominster, Massachusetts. I am a city councilor here, Ward 3 city councilor in the city of Fitchburg. And I've been practicing now for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
And I've
It's a long time.
It has been coming up on 2 decades. And I have been in the courtrooms all my career. Mm-hmm. I have been in almost every courthouse. I cannot think of one courthouse, except maybe out on the Cape, where I have not gone to. Mm-hmm. I've been to Fall River. I've been all the way up to Salem. I've been all the way out to Springfield. I've even gone out to some of the way Western Mass courts. And of course, Worcester, Fitchburg, Leominster,
They're
those
like
are
your hometown.
those are my home areas. But I've been in front of a lot of judges. And what the Governor's Council does is they vote on who gets to be a judge. They vote on administrative law judges. They vote on district and superior court judges. They also vote on appellate judges, as well as the Supreme Judicial Court, which is the highest court in Massachusetts. They also vote for people who are on the parole board, and they vote on who gets a pardon and who doesn't, who gets declined.
You mean the Governor's Council, actually?
Yeah.
You would do that?
Yeah. So the governor would say, just recently, the governor wanted to pardon everybody in Massachusetts who had a marijuana drug conviction, a simple possession charge. She wanted to pardon them. And this is actually something that, I agree with, because, for something so mundane, it really shouldn't have to haunt you for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think, I honestly think, somebody who runs afoul of the law, back when they were a young, stupid kid, 20, 21, 22, and they were a dumb kid in college, and now they're 50, 55, should that really haunt you for the rest of your life? Mm-hmm. And under Massachusetts law as it stands right now, it will. It will haunt you for the rest of your life, and it will impact, some of your God-given rights. Second Amendment right, first of all. If you have a DUI and you get convicted of a DUI, a drunk driving charge, and you were a young kid in your 20s or 21, coming home from college, from a party or something like that, you make the mistake, you don't run afoul of the law for the rest of your life, and now you're 50, well, guess what?
Now you look like a habitual offender.
Well, they basically use that to say, well, you are now statutorily disqualified from ever having a firearm for the rest of your life. And a lot of people don't realize that, one slip up in the law, and your Second Amendment right is out the window.
I want to give you my feeling about this, but But before we get on to that, how many governor's councils are you? Counselors are there? Now, you're the seventh.
I'm the seventh.
The seventh of seven?
No, 7 of 8.
7 of 8.
7 of 8. There's one for the western portion of the state. There's one for central Massachusetts, which is Worcester County. There's, of course, there's Boston. There's the Cape. So in total, there's about 8. All the different districts.
So just to slip it in here, my only concern about the marijuana, letting everyone go who was a marijuana possession, one of the problems I have is sometimes people are pleaded down. They may be guilty of many, many more serious crimes of drug possession, of fentanyl, this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
But it's pleaded down to the possession of marijuana.
Well, you don't, in the courts, if somebody is charged with, possession of fentanyl or possession of heroin or possession of cocaine, you don't normally see that pleaded down to possession of marijuana.
Okay.
They are different
classes
of drugs, and they're not going to just switch one to the other to, in order to plead that case down. You're just not going to see that.
So you just gave me a little more faith in the law.
I try.
Okay. You're a very busy guy. I mean, I kind of know what your schedule is, and you are like a super busy guy. Why run for governor's council now?
Because I think we need it. Just recently, the governor appointed her ex-wife. It was reported in the news that it was her ex-girlfriend, but no. I mean, it was the ex-wife, and it went through without a hitch. Only the 8th district, governor's council, said anything negative about it, but it went through, and I think that's nepotism at its worst. And we don't have a Republican or a conservative governor's council. It's Democrat across the board.
And that in itself is frightening. I mean, you and I certainly, because we are partisan people. We live in a partisan world, and we understand. But what we're seeing happen to former President Trump, we understand what can happen when you have party politics and one political party run the whole shebang, so to speak.
Look at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I mean, it is.
We don't have a voice. You and I don't have a voice. Or anybody who comes from a conservative perspective, we just do not have a voice.
That is very true. And I think we have a unique opportunity in this upcoming election. I really believe that. A lot of people are, there are some people saying to me, why are you doing this at a presidential election? You're going to get killed. I don't believe so. Just today, as a matter of fact, as you know, I'm gathering my signatures. I have enough signatures to get on the ballot, but now I got to drive to all the little podunk towns throughout western central Massachusetts, and that's what I was doing today. And my wife took the day off, I took the day off, and we spent the day together. And we went to town. And even Katrina, I didn't say anything to her. And she was like, I am absolutely shocked about how many Trump signs I see. And the 4420, Stop 4420, the gun bill.
Yes.
We saw tons of them.
Yes.
And even Katrina's like, wow, I mean, we gotta make sure these people get out to vote. And I think that this election is giving the Republicans a unique opportunity because Washington is a disaster the way it is.
The state is a disaster the way it is.
Yeah, well, the state is a disaster. The country is in ruins. I mean, it cost you, how much is it for a gallon of milk now? What, over $5? I mean, the country has, I'm not going to say has woken up, but their eyes are peeking open. And I think they're seeing that, we'll take your money and make sure to disperse it amongst everybody else. A lot of people are seeing that as, a falsity. Fuel prices are up, food prices are up, everything is through the roof, inflation is going nuts. I think that there is, possibly a tidal wave coming. And I think it's time to ride the wave. I know we were all saying that in 2022. Yeah. Here comes the red wave, and it wound up being a trickle.
Yeah.
But I think now
we have 2 more years on it.
Right. And now we see what kind of disaster things are, and I think even Democrats are looking at the state of the country and going, my God, we got to do something. In fact, some of my signatures were invalidated because
they were Democrats.
Because they were Democrat. But they're out there. They want change. They see the problems, and they understand where the problems are coming from. And that's unfortunately, where we stand right now. And the Democratic Party is in control, and they're not fiscally responsible. They're not fiscally conservative, and it shows in the food prices, in the fuel prices.
Well, and it's not just the fiscal irresponsibility, it's other things like getting rid of all of our petroleum reserves, which is a national security issue. It's our relationship with foreign countries.
It's the flood of illegal immigrants coming in.
Call them what you will, but when we complain about getting our roads paved or not getting our roads paved, the money has to come from somewhere, and it's not going to the cities and towns to pay for roads.
I mean, we're right in the middle of budget season in the city of Fitchburg, and we are $7 million in the hole. Why are we $7 million in the hole? Healthcare, pensions, and schools. I mean, everybody's clamoring for money, and the city is now trying to find where we're gonna make up the seven.
And the state can't make it up.
The state can't make it up
because they don't have any either.
Yeah. The state doesn't have it, or if they do have it, they're certainly not giving it to the smaller cities and towns. So, and you see that. I mean, again, I was driving all throughout Worcester County, and Fitchburg isn't the only one with potholes.
What are the cities and towns, when you said all through? It's not just defined geographically as Worcester County, is it? You're a little bit of an amoeba, aren't you? What cities and towns are involved in this?
There's too many to really to name them all. I mean, it goes basically down to the Rhode Island border, all the way up to the New Hampshire border, where we're talking about Worcester and the surrounding towns, Uxbridge, Mendon, Holland. I mean, I didn't even realize there was a Holland, Mass. I mean, to be quite honest with you.
I know, when you sent me a text and said I'm in Holland, I asked you to, how many windmills were you looking at?
Honestly, I was looking for people with wooden shoes. I mean, but no, I mean, there's quite a few towns, and they are a lot of smaller conservative towns.
Rural, very rural.
Extremely rural. I saw more cows than I did people today. But that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I grew up on a family farm, conservative values, and that's the way I grew up. I grew up in a town, which is in my district, Templeton, and I grew up on a small family farm, and in Templeton, when I was growing up, there were more cows than people.
I know when we interviewed Jen Casey, this was quite a few years ago, there were a couple of cases at the same time where the judges were really coming down with outrageous decisions. And I know as we look at the nation and the state, we realize now that we're in a nation in many ways of lawlessness, especially when we look and see what happens in some of the big cities with crime. Criminals commit crime, it's caught on tape, everybody gets to watch beatdowns and old ladies being thrown off of church steps and ending up with brain injuries. We're seeing it play out in real time, and yet those same individuals walk in the front door of a jail system and they walk out the back door. and they get lost into the community. So that we're really becoming a country of lawlessness. Thankfully, we haven't witnessed it in our own Fitchburg.
No, I will have to say that the district court judge, the head of the district court in Fitchburg, the judge, Christopher Lecanto, is probably one of the best judges I have ever been in front of. He's strict, he's firm, but he is also fair.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, when you see some of these people come in front of you, I mean, you go spend a day in district court. You go and sit down in district court and see, you know, some of the people coming in ripped sweatpants and you know or dirty jeans or something like that. You know, I remember the day when if you were going to go to court, you had to wear your Sunday best.
Shirt and tie. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people they don't have respect for the law anymore. Right. That's a huge problem. You know, because they are allowed to just walk in and walk out. That's a huge problem. I was talking to the chief the other day about the chief of police of Fitchburg about some of the issues that I've seen in the court system, and he agrees with me.
Are there any real heinous pending cases right now in the court system where you see abuse of the system by judges? That
you mean other than Donald Trump's?
Well, that's crime that you would be able to cite. I mean, I don't want you to give away any confidences of.
I'm not going to say that I'm giving away any confidences. I mean, a lot of my cases are, you know, pretty. I mean, there's a couple of cases that I'm working on that are pretty big. But you know, one of the cases that I see that I have a lot of questions on, and you know, the people might call it conspiracy theory, people might, you know, not. But in Dedham, the Karen Reed trial. I've seen
lawn signs.
Lawn signs. There's been a lot of lawn signs I've seen.
I have no clue what that's about, but I've seen lawn signs.
It's a long, drawn-out story about, you know, somebody killing their husband who was a police officer, and there's a conspiracy theory that, you know, other people did it and they're just trying to blame the wife. I've been following it. It's interesting. I don't know where I stand one way or the other, but that's probably the most interesting case right now that's coming out of Massachusetts.
But nothing that's really on the edge that we're seeing a real abuse of the judicial system to protect.
Actually, quite the opposite. I just saw, and I was glad to see it coming out of Holyoke, where a district court decided that the suitability standard when it comes to somebody's right to get a license to carry is unconstitutional based on Bruin. And that's been something I've been arguing since Bruin came out. And I actually saw a decision out of Holyoke that agreed with us.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's going to wind up at the SJC eventually. And you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what the SJC has to say about it, because that's been something I've been arguing since Bruin came out.
That's kind of a little bit of a focus of your law practice.
I wouldn't say it's a focus. I mean, I do many things. That's one of my passions, I would say. But I do probate and family law, I do criminal law, I do civil litigation, personal injury, stuff like that. Which is why you've
been in every court.
That is true.
In the state.
That is true.
So I think a lot of our Ward 3 people and our Fitchburg residents who watch this show will probably say, but Andrew is a well-known, well-respected city councilor of Ward 3 in the city. How does this play with Governor's Council? Can you do both?
I can do both. Governor's Council meets every Wednesday, right about the noontime hour. That's when their meeting is, and you know, I actually have a former employer of mine who's on the city council, on the Governor's Council. His name is Christopher Iannelli. He's out in the Boston area.
Yeah, I recognize that. And he was a friend of yours.
Yeah, well,
probably is a friend of yours.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. You know, we stay connected, and he was actually, you know, interested and encouraged me to run when I said, you know, I had an idea about doing it, it's one meeting a week, and you know, it's going to be I have to go into Boston. Not like you could zoom in on it, and I'm sure they did zoom in during the pandemic. But no, it's one meeting a week during the day, and it's not going to interrupt my city council. It is going to be kind of like it's going to be a little bit of an issue when it comes to scheduling my court cases and whatnot. That's basically blocking out my Wednesdays. But it's something that I'm willing to do, and the judges do respect that. If you're on the governor's council, that hey, this is somebody that we need to give a little bit of leeway to, because they're making important decisions about the judicial system.
Sure. We have been together in this program now for probably over 10 years. We've been co-hosting this show together.
I think it'll be 10 years next year.
Oh, so it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And can you sort of explain to our viewers what is the benefit? I think we have a real benefit to the community, and I've had many people come up in the community and talk to me about why they like our show. Can you explain to our viewers, from your perspective, the benefit of having a conservative voice come into the homes? Well,
I think it gives people an opportunity to listen to the issues and giving them their right to know. They do have a right to have an in-depth conversation about important subjects of a conservative nature. You don't really get that, other than the talking heads on TV. Like if you watch Fox News or some people watch Newsmax, but that's really the only thing. You don't have anything on a local level like this. You want to listen to something conservative, you turn on Fox News, or you turn on Newsmax,
or people who listen to the satellite radio.
Right, or the satellite radio, but they always talk about national issues.
Yeah.
They don't talk about local. If you want state issues, you listen to Jeff Cooner or Howie Carr, but you don't get anything local. And that's what we provide, and I think the local people,
the value to our program
gives the local people a value to it, to say, hey, these are people in our community. They come up to you in Market Basket and say, hey, I love the show. I've had people approach me saying, you look awfully familiar. It's like, well, I'm on TV. I'm also a city councilor. I'm an attorney in the area. You pick a card, any card. You probably see me one way or the other. But I think this show gives people a perspective, locally.
And a perspective that they don't get by listening to.
Yeah, they don't get it by listening to, the Boston news.
Yeah.
You don't get it by watching
or ABC, NBC, CBS.
Yeah, you don't get that. You get local people talking about local and state and national, issues. And that's a rarity. That is a rarity, and I think our viewers appreciate it.
I think they do too. Who also watches cable access TV a lot are the people who don't have a lot of fancy streaming channels.
Yeah.
And they're some of the senior citizens.
Yep.
or young families that just don't put the money into Netflix and Prime Video and things like that.
You think about all the different streaming services that you can get. I mean, how much do you pay for cable? It's going to double cable.
Yeah.
And cable's not cheap either.
No, basically.
Even the basic isn't cheap. And when you have either seniors that are on a fixed income or young families that are struggling to make ends meet, having the local news on, or cable news on, I mean, it's more important for them to be able to put food in their kids' bellies than to make sure that they can watch cable news or something like that.
Sure. Well, viewers, Andrew isn't going anywhere, and neither am I. We're going to be around for a while, and Andrew, I certainly wish you luck as in your challenge to be the next governor council for the congressional, it's not a congressional district, it's just the 7th district.
It's the 7th district of Massachusetts. That's what it is.
It has its own little unique niche.
It does. It really does. And driving around and viewing all these small towns, some of which I've never been in before, it gives me a unique perspective of our district.
Yeah, I did a lot of, and that's another thing that I think it's important for our viewers to understand in terms of a time element for you. It is a Wednesday, but you won't have to go to these cities and towns on any routine basis. Visiting the cities and towns is not part of the job.
Correct. It's not like, I mean, I'm a representative of the Governor's Council for this district. But it's not like I'm going to be doing any kind of town hall meetings or city council meetings. They do televise the Governor's Council, and being a representative, just like I'm a representative of Ward 3, my phone number is going to be out there. You can call me if you have an issue, like, there's going to be a new judge appointed. Contact your local Governor's Council, let them know your feelings. That's going to go a long way. It's going to be the same thing that I'm doing in Fitchburg.
You taught me a lot more about the Governor's Council than I had previously known tonight. I knew it had to do with review of judges. I did not know it went as far as parole boards and hearings and things like that. So, since I want our viewers to know you're not leaving us anytime soon, I'd like you to serve as my co-host tonight and close out our show.
Not a problem. We thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting with the FRCC. As we leave you, we want you to remember that your local, city, town Republican committee is the only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty, your constitutional rights, and conservative values. We encourage you to join us. Why? Because to us, the GOP stands for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all. And because we always stand for freedom. Good night.